All right, so in this one, we're going to be creating what's called custom middleware. Middleware itself is something that happens in between a regular request and actually a page or a view rendering. So I click on product 2. Very quickly, it went through the middleware and then it went to the view and it displayed what was ever on the view, right? So we've designed views quite a bit. To see it in action as far as a little bit more detailed, it's an HTTP request. It goes through the request, so it's processing the request, and then it has some middleware that it goes through, so it actually checks through all that middleware. Then it goes to urls.py. That URLs wraps to a function or a view function of some kind, and then it returns a response. All this stuff happens super fast, and it happens every single time. That's something that middleware does. So if we actually look at our settings, so settings.py, we see all this default middleware. We briefly talked about it in the last one, like CSRF. So if somebody submits a form, this middleware checks to make sure that the CSRF token is there. If it's not there, it runs some errors. The messages middleware, that's the one in Django messages that checks whether or not there's a message. If there is one, then it displays it. So we're going to create our own custom middleware in this one. That's going to come after all this stuff, so it's going to be at the very bottom. So right here is where our custom middleware is going to be. And I'm going to go ahead and put it into our marketing. So inside of marketing, I'll go new file, and I'm going to save this as middleware.py. And all I'm going to do is a relative import. So I'm going to import our marketing messages. So from models, import marketing message. Right, so if we open up our marketing message here, we see our marketing message right there. All right, so we're importing that. And now we have to create a class. So let's say, for instance, our class is display marketing. And we could say display marketing message. And so now we're just going to override a request, or actually create a processing of requests. So define process request, and it's going to be self and the request. So the request is actually going to come through here. So that's our typical request, like what we've seen on views. And this is where we'll create our marketing message. So I'm going to do it using sessions. So I'll do request.session, and then I'll call it marketing message, marketing_message. And then I'll set it equal to our very first marketing message. So objects.all, and then I'm going to say 0 and then .message. So I'm going to just kind of explain what's going on here. This is a query set, so it's a list of items that's going to show anything that's related to our marketing message. And then it's going to get the very first one in there, and then it's going to get the field of message, so message. Now we could also just do try, because if you don't have any marketing messages, this will fail. Or actually, I'll just say marketing message being false. All right, so now that we've got this set up, let's go back into our settings.py file, and we're going to add it in here. So marketing.middleware.display messages, or display message, that is. And then, of course, you can, or excuse me, display marketing, not message. So then now we have the middleware actually set up. So if we go back into Chrome and refresh in here, we see the marketing message. It actually shows it, right? And if we go to each page, it'll still show it. Even if we close it out, go to another page, it's still going to show it. And that's what middleware does very well. It actually goes through and shows everything. But there's one thing that I do want to show you is this is an instance right here. And then .message is getting the field that's related to that instance for message. So if I get rid of that field, save it, go back and refresh, I get this error. So this means that you can't actually set the instance itself to a session variable. You have to set the instance field, or the what you actually want to be there, right there, just like that. That allows it to actually work in a way that, like, you might not know to actually work. All right, so what if we just wanted to print something and we don't want this session variable stuff here anymore, or the marketing message there? If I refresh in here, it's still there. So to actually get rid of it, we have to log out. That actually ends the session. We log in again, it's gone. And that's because the session is actually done. It's deleted every time they log out. So putting it back on will make sure that that message is there, and it will stay there until the session is over, essentially. So we will work more with sessions later, but for now, just kind of keep that in mind that we have this session and it's going to keep a message there. So this is cool. So this actually allows us to create a message of any kind actually displaying up here because of this custom middleware. Now, this is not all you can do with middleware. You can do all sorts of things in here with middleware. So it could be stuff for the user. It could be like, for example, maybe you want to update all this information for a user. You could run different types of things here with that. Also with process requests, you could have something where it's pulling some sort of data. So let's say, for instance, if you had like on our searches, so oops, not tests, but T's or T. If you had something like this, you can pull this data in your middleware. So we can actually print that out. So print request.get, and we get Q. So if I refresh in here, it says T and none. So if I do it again, it's going to say T and none. So it's definitely getting the Q or the T variable there. So if we actually went to a different page, it's going to say none all around, right? So every time we go to different pages, it says it twice. It's pulling it actually twice. So I'd say Q equals to that. Print Q. Refresh, and it's still saying none. So our search will actually allow us to do that. And now it's just saying T. Okay, so what this allows us to do also is if we wanted to store analytic data, we'd be able to do that in some sort of middleware. It doesn't have to, of course, it wouldn't probably be in our marketing middleware, because our marketing middleware would have more to do with the messages that we want to display. Now, the tricky part comes is when and how we display this given message based on how our models are set up and all that. So that's something that we'll start to work towards in the next few videos, but we might take a pause and actually go back into doing some more finishing up the cart and stuff like that. But for now, at the very least, you do know how to display a message that will be persistent, or you could change it where the persistence of the message only occurs if they go to certain pages, right? So this middleware doesn't actually have to happen, or so this stuff does not have to happen in the middleware. It could happen on any of our other views. So then you could set that message there more later or something, right? So maybe it's related to a specific product and you have some sort of message you want here, and then this is where you would actually set the message. So now if you go to any other page, it will show that message until they go back to a given page, just like that. So actually, I'll show you real quick on how we would do that. So let's go ahead and go into message middleware. I'm going to cut this stuff out and just I'll comment it out, so we'll leave it. And I'll just say print, or I'll just do pass. Just write pass there, so then nothing actually happens in this. And then in our view for home, I'm now going to change this to being our session marketing message. And instead of try, I'll just get this being pass. All right, so this marketing message is going to show it, and we have some message here. And then on all products, I'm going to delete this session. So I'll do delete that session. So now, whenever I go to the home page, it's going to show this message, and every other page I go to will show this message until I go to all. And so let's say, for instance, I go to home page. Global marketing message is not defined, and that's from this right here. So let's delete that and refresh in here. All right, so let's log out of our session first. Log in. That marketing message shows. If I go in the product, it shows. If I go to all products, it goes away. If I go to a new product, it still is gone. And then if I go home, it comes back. So that allows me to do all that type of thing. So that's what's cool about the marketing message too. So those are two ways that you can use sessions to have your marketing message. I'm not going to keep it this way because I don't want it. I actually want it to be in, for now, I'm going to be using it in the middleware. So there we go. All right, so that's custom middleware. And I'm going to undo all this stuff, get this marketing message in here. Custom middleware that allows us to do this stuff and actually set our session messages. We are going to be doing a lot more with this, and more specifically, we will set these messages with a middleware, but we will delete them. So if I refresh in here, we will actually delete them or remove that session variable here, and we'll store some sort of data with that as well. All right, so we will see you in the next one.